you're with Arise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, as we bring you our special coverage of the 2023 Governorship and State Assembly elections. I am Amaka Oborevwori.
I'm Sulaiman. Over the next hours, we'll be live with our correspondents across Nigeria, analysts, commentators, election observers, and party representatives who will help us assess the election and the results. Well, so it's been a weekend of high political drama, but we're almost at the finish line as collation of results from Saturday's elections continues. 20 states have been announced, and so far with 7 states still to go. And breaking news, the election in Adamawa State has been declared inconclusive.
And of course, there have been big wins for the All Progressives Congress, with the results so far delivering victories in 14 states for the party, including Lagos, Ogun, Gombe, Yobe, Kwara, Jigawa, Sokoto, Katsina, and Cross River State. Well, they are also leading in a couple of other states where the results are still coming in.
Well, some gains also for the PDP in 3 states, Akwa Ibom, Oyo, and Delta. The NNPP has picked up the big prize of Kano State. Arise Director of News and Politics Editor Somna Sambo joins us to analyze these results. Let's start with those results released today and that breaking story from Adamawa. Somna, did you see that coming?
Yeah, I mean, the results were very close, and when we saw the controversy that was ongoing in Fufore local government area, it looks like something was going to happen, because I mean the good thing I really loved about the controversy there is that the state collation officer actually insisted that the results that were brought in by the local government collation officer should be rejected, because the result that was posted in IREV, that's the polling unit results, by the time you tally them, yes, that were posted on IREV, when you tally them together, they are a little bit more for APC than PDP compared to the physical result that was brought in by the local government collation officer. So in the physical result, that of the PDP was more than the APC. So you see, when there was this controversy, the state collation officer had to insist that he will go with the IREV. That is the ones that were posted right from election day from the polling unit on the INEC website. You see, that's the advantage of technology. And of course, if there was any challenge or any issue of, the collation officer being, put under duress or anything, of course, the collation officer will automatically just, switch to the electronic copy and all of that. So that's culminated in the inconclusive election that we have. And just to explain to our viewers who may be finding it difficult to understand what it means for an election to be inconclusive, is just simple. There was a time where we used to have lots of inconclusive elections, and then they gradually faded. So when an election becomes inconclusive, it simply means that the margin between the person who is leading and the person who is the runner-up, who is the second leading candidate, is lower. And as a result of that, let's say, for example, the candidate who is above has 10,000, and then the person who is below has 5,000, and then the areas where the votes have been cancelled have about 20,000 votes. So you see that if any of the first person gets 20,000 votes added to him, it can determine the eventual win. And if the second person has 20,000 added to him or her, it can determine the eventual winner. So because the margin of lead between the person who has the highest currently and the person who is following is not enough to be able to counter the areas where elections were properly conducted, the electoral body would have to say, hold on, gentlemen, let's go back to the field and see what happened. Why was there violence? Or there should be a rerun in this local government. So in the areas, for example, in this particular example I'm giving, where you have the 20,000 located, INEC will have to go back, conduct elections there, and then of course the results will come in. Then you now add to the person who has 10,000, and then add to the person who has 5,000 to see. And
that might actually determine.
Yeah, so that will now determine who wins.
Absolutely. And somehow this is actually the second result being declared inconclusive today, because earlier in the day, Kebbi State State, the same circumstance played out there, where the APC was actually leading with 388,000 plus, and next in line was the PDP with 342,000. But the difference between them, 45,000,
so
but the council votes, council vote in Kebbi was about 91,000. So INEC has said, you know what, supplementary elections will be held in a subsequent day.
Because that 91,000 can eventually, if you add that 91,000 to the second runner-up, it can tilt the game. And if you add it to the person who is leading, it can still shoot the person higher.
So let's talk about what this really means for our democracy. You know that this is not the first time we're seeing this. Even in the Osun elections, we saw something like this play out, but eventually a winner was declared.
This is what we are supposed to do. Both the electoral body and then the electorate, they are supposed to be very patient to allow the process to go through, because there is no reason why any state collation officer or local government collation officer should be in haste to declare results. I mean, even if it means for 1 week for elections to be postponed, as long as there are people whose voices still need to be heeded to, in terms of the huge number of people whose areas were either cancelled or elections did not hold, or something just happened, or they were snatching of ballot papers and all of that, and INEC had to cancel all of that. Look, all those people, those areas need to be given a chance, because they can determine the eventual winner. So there's no need to rush. You know, what used to happen in the past is that collation officers, maybe under duress or not under duress, would just announce result and tell you to go to court. But if you go to court, the court will ask you, why did you declare the election result, when you know that if you go back to the field, the huge number of people who have been disenfranchised can actually determine the ultimate winner. So over time, the electoral body learned from it, and then the courts also started giving judgments that were favorable to the electorate. So in this instance, the electoral body has done what is right, and people should be patient. People shouldn't take laws into their hands, because we hear that, for example, in Adamawa, there are issues of, people planning to, create violence and all of that, and the state government is trying to see how they can put curfew and all of that. So the electorate should be patient with the electoral body while a supplementary election is being put in place. And then the supplementary election should come very fast too. Hopefully the next day, or at least it should be concluded in 2 days' time.
And sometimes for the fact that we're seeing, aside from violence being one of the reasons why we're seeing this inconclusive results, the cases of overvoting is also a very serious issue. One thinks about the fact that we have beavers that is supposed to accredit and help with the process. What exactly, where's the missing link here? The
missing link is that politicians are engaging in self-help. I mean, so you go to a place where you are popular, but you just want to just increase the votes, anticipating that maybe in your opposition, in the place of your opponent, they may beat you silly there. So you just go ahead and increase the vote more than those that were accredited. Maybe if you have like about 20,000 people that were accredited, but the people who are registered in that polling unit in that electoral area, maybe they are like about 50,000. But only 20,000 people came out in several polling units within that same area to actually get accredited. So the tendency is that politicians will now say, there are supposed to be 50,000 registered voters here, but only 20,000 came out. So can I look for a way to add 10,000 or 15,000 to make it look like about 30 or 45,000 people came out? So, but eventually that's where the beavers comes in, the accreditation. How many people actually went to the polling units that day with their PVCs to say, look, they want to vote, and then they were accredited. Once you put it together, irrespective of the number of people who registered, it's the number of people who turned out and got accredited. That's why we have 87 million people who got registered for the presidential election, right? And all generally. But we had just like about 25 million people coming out to vote eventually.
Okay, all right, so now let's talk about results. I recall yesterday we were waiting for the results of so many other states. Specifically, let's talk about the southern state of Delta, which is a very fierce one, where we saw Nigeria's Deputy Senate President, in an attempt to upstage the PDP. The results already out with Agege losing to the PDP Oborevwori. Let us in on how that, what that means for the big opposition, the PDP.
Well, it's a big win for them, and then for Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, he had to rearrange his home base to actually show that he still has capacity to deliver. And we will see that, from the movement of the election results and the local governments that were declared, you will see that a lot of people still believe in in PDP in Delta State. The presidential election results had wanted to actually tilt that, but you will see that the people who benefited from that are neither of these two political parties, is the Labour. So during this period now, a lot of people had to go home, like Governor Ifeanyi Okowa had to ask all his appointees in government, everybody go back and apologize, beg voters, look at the obedient, tell them that, look, yes, their person may not likely, that's Kempela, that, you know, it was political propaganda, that he may likely not stand an Omar Gege or, you know, Oborevwori. So at the end of the day, this actually paid off for him, although it's been controversial and the APC guys are saying that, look, they are going to challenge this and all of that. But you see the distance, I mean, the gap is almost about, I think, 120,000 votes. I mean, it's very huge. But what does that tell us? That, look, the thinking was that, you know, with Ibori, you know, going close to Omar Gege and all of that, and the problems that they had in the PDP, that may affect the chances of the governor and his political godson now, Oborevwori, who's there, that it may affect their chances. But Ifeanyi Okowa is coming out to actually announce himself as one of the new godfathers in town. And this is what Nigerians should look out for. In this election, I can tell you we have emerging godfathers everywhere. Right. Look at Benue State, for example. George Akume, he has put his person as governor, senators, House of Representatives, including his wife, everybody. You go to Sokoto, Margaret Takada Wamako, former governor, he has been instrumental to ensuring that the APC bounces back. Most of the seats there, you know, he's there.
Don't gloss over Sokoto, because
and then you go to Jos, Plateau State, Jonah Jan, former governor, you know, he has gone back the PDP into power.
You wouldn't gloss over Sokoto.
We really have to take it state by state, but let's go to the North Central states that you had mentioned earlier, Benue and Plateau. We're seeing a swap, you know, the APC Plateau state now, you know, moving to the PDP. And in Benue state, we're seeing the party that, of course, was an APC state now was a PDP state, looking at Autumn, although he was he was elected as APC governor
2015
before PDP, he then moved. Yes. But talk to us about, you know, the dynamics as it's playing out with these results that we're seeing today.
The dynamics that are playing out here is the politics of ethnicity. And then religion. During the presidential election, it was more about religion and ethnicity taking the back seat. But during this period, it's about ethnicity taking the front seat and then religion. Look at, for example, Benue State. The Tiv people have always had that majority and they always exercise that majority. That's why when you go to Benue South, they've always been stuck with the PDP. They keep even up to now. Benue South Senatorial District is still, you know, going to PDP. But as long as Benue is concerned, once they have a popular candidate, and then that person is supported by George Akume, former two-term governor, former Senate minority leader, Minister of Special Duties now, who has over time become, you know, the godfather in the state. There's a tendency for the person to win. Now, the former, the outgoing governor was actually voted in via APC, but, you know, he tried to curry the favor of Nigerians when he started having problems with Akume, and at the end of the day, he moved to the PDP, and people had a lot of sympathy because of Atiku. Atiku holds a great position in Benue State. It's called the Zege Mule Utif. That's the friend or the leader, friend of the Tiv Kingdom and all of that. And so when that 2019 elections came between Buhari and Atiku, there was that tendency for people to coalesce around Autumn, and then with the claim that farmers and herders were having clashes, Fulani and all of that. So he made some good political capital out of that. But unfortunately, his performance did not measure up with the rhetoric that was ongoing. And he engaged in unnecessary political fight. Absolutely. And so that really cost him a lot. And eventually even his own seat that he was looking for. Now if you go to that senatorial seat, but if you go to Plateau State now, you see that Lalong too also played bad politics. In the sense that the APC was being seen as a religious political party right from time, but people gave it some form of time and some sort of belief in 2015. But in 2019, he, you know, narrowly had to fight his way around. But unfortunately, he couldn't settle the political fight with the then former governor, Jonah Jang, who licked his wounds. And I was just waiting for this day to be able to hit back. But unfortunately, during the presidential elections, he aligned with the Labour Party.
Right.
And the Labour Party, this governorship election, he insisted that he was going to show his strength.
All right.
And of course, he has done that
you
with
stay
ours.
because it's quite an interesting one to the extent that the former governor of Ekiti State has been taunting someone in Sokoto. It's something that we must...
I mean, we've always seen that. Tambuwal's own started from 2015.
We'll come back to that. Yeah, we'll see the flip as well in Sokoto.
Let's quickly go to River State, and Omano is waiting on the wings to let us in on what exactly is happening there. Omano.
Yes, Sulaiman, good evening. Great to be back. We are still here with a waiting game. The first instance, we were asked to wait till 5 o'clock, from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and the waiting game is still continuing. This is 4 hours after. Like I reported earlier, one local government is outstanding. That is Ahoda West local government area. And one is just wondering why it is taking so long to turn in this local government area so that we can get done and dusted with this assignment. But as I speak with you, the waiting game is in here. Every journalist is seated because we needed to tidy before you can leave this place, and that is what is currently going on now. Sulaiman.
Well, Andy, as it stands right now, like you have alluded to, just one local government is being awaited. But so far, one political party is leading, and of course, we're seeing the opposition really raise, some question with regards to the result as has been railed out. But what more do we know as to why there is this delay coming from Ahoda, which is not, that much of a distance from the capital city?
Well, Amaka, that seems to be the question in almost everyone's lips, because if we are done with 22, how come that getting one turned in is suddenly becoming a very Herculean task? Of course, there's been so many conspiracy theories that probably something untoward is going on, but we really cannot put a finger on that now until those whose responsibility it is to tell us what is going on will be here to let us know why this long delay. But as I mentioned earlier on, many, even outside the collation center in Rivers State, are waiting with bated breath to know who will eventually be declared the governor-elect. Amaka.
We're here because the assurance is very key here, and you painted a very worrying picture of the waiting game. How assured are you and other journalists that this will definitely take off tonight?
Well, we've not. The last information we got was from the PRO of INEC here in Rivers State, who did announce that the reconvening time has been shifted to 7 p.m. this morning. Sulaiman, if you look at your time, you discover that it's no longer, it's beyond 7 p.m. And between then and now, we've not gotten any official information as to what is still keeping the officials here from hitting the collation center so that what needed to be done is put in place. But what do? We really cannot leave here until we are done with what brought us here, and that is the declaration of the 2023 governorship result of Rivers State. So we're waiting. Right now, no official information yet, and the waiting game is continuing.
That waiting game is continuing. We are with you here, even though you are out there and we are in the studio. Andy Omano, well done for the great job done so far. And of course, once we get an update, please keep us informed. Andy Omano, of course, bringing us up to speed with regards to the collation of the governorship election in River State, which, of course, as we have just been told, 22 local government areas have so far been declared, and just one, Ahoda, still being awaited. Arise Director of News as well as Politics Editor Somna Sambo is still with us in the studio, and of course we're looking at all the results as they have trickled in today. Well, Somna, Director General of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council and outgoing Governor of Sokoto State. We've seen him lose today, and as Sule alluded to, being touted by former Governor of Ekiti State. Talk to us about what that rivalry is about, but more importantly, this victory for the APC. What is this telling us about the politics there? Well,
the politics we have in Sokoto is that of, a godfather and a godson, and then a payback time. And Tinubu is within the mix of the Sokoto politics, I can tell you, because this started in 2011. Remember Mulika Takonde, who was nominated to be speaker by the PDP, and eventually Tinubu had to back Waziri Tambuwal to actually become the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and it became a hot issue as to why Tinubu had to betray somebody and all of that. So it was a political calculation ahead of 2015, 2019, and even 2023. So in 2015, there was later on, this issue of betrayal here and there of Tinubu's political family by Waziri Tambuwal. But later on, we had the former governor of Sokoto State, Aliyu Wamako, who is now a senator, coming together and say, look, gentlemen, let there be peace between Tinubu and Tambuwal. And they jointly came together and delivered Tambuwal as governor of Sokoto State in 2015. But unfortunately, Tambuwal now worked against some of the things that, they had talked about with the, outgoing governor then, who then became a senator, Aliyu Wamako. And then, of course, in 2019, they fell apart. So in 2019, Wamako brought somebody else who was the deputy of Tambuwal's deputy then, and used him to confront Tambuwal. But unfortunately, they almost succeeded, but just a few votes, I think about 300 to 312 votes, eventually making Tambuwal to scale through. But eventually, Wamako said he was still going to pay back Tambuwal for that political sin of fighting against him. And he had been warned by Tinubu earlier on that backing Tambuwal was risky politically, but of course Wamako has said no, they are settled and all of that. Unfortunately, it has brought us where we are, that Wamako sponsored another person to ensure that he, defeats Tambuwal's own candidate. So it was a contest of a former godson trying to become a godfather and a former godfather trying to maintain his hold over Sokoto politics. And in all, we've seen that Wamako is not just stopping at there. He's still insisting that the senatorial election, which is still going to be held, which is still pending, that he's going to ensure that the APC sweeps all of that. So he wants a clean sweep so as to show Tambuwal what it is. And you would have heard Ayo Fayose also saying that, look, Tambuwal betrayed lots of people, including in the last primaries and all of that, so that Tambuwal has been a serial betrayer. But would you also blame Tambuwal? Tambuwal saw opportunities. In 2011, he sneaked in and he became a speaker. He was widely accepted, though he later had issues with those who nominated him and whose political family he represented. Is about? Yeah, and then in 2015, he saw another opportunity he was given. But in 2019, he has to prove that he's his own man too. And that's what he was only trying to prove by bringing in someone to take over. But unfortunately, the politics of being DG of the PDP and then wanting to be PDP presidential candidate consumed a lot of his strength, and unfortunately he didn't have enough time to settle the home front, and he's paying the ultimate price.
Yeah, his former deputy between 2015 and 2019, Ahmed Ali, of course, has now been declared the winner,
because he was the one who was used against him in the last election. It's just the same thing that happened in Kano.
Here we go.
Remember in 2019, this same person who won from NNPP was the same person who was in PDP.
Here we go.
Who sponsoring him. And now, after that political fight, they moved to the NNPP himself and Kwankwaso, and then eventually they've been able to deliver him.
Well, an interesting perspective there, Somla Sambo. Many thanks for your time.
That's a group of people.